Hello, hi guys, welcome back to the Football Showdown channel. We are back with the summer window. This time we are back scouting players who are very important, who are making big headlines from Fabrizio or even David Ornstein, who's possibly making those big moves. Some to the Arsenal, some around the world. This summer, we want to make sure that we are covering as many players as possible. Some of them may be linked to Arsenal, some of them may be linked to some other clubs internationally, maybe to some La Liga team or Serie A team or even to the Bundesliga. What we want to do on this channel is to make sure that we cover as many players as possible, bring out the right information and right scouting analysis from our panel, our people, and my friend. So, to help me with that, the guest who helped make this channel a thing for even scouting out players, Aarush. How are you?
Great, man. It's great to be back with yet another scouting video in another summer now.
Yep. Yeah, it's been almost a year now. It's been a year actually, and yeah, the season has been all right. But we are here to talk about a player who's been linked with Arsenal, with Chelsea, with Liverpool, with Real Madrid as well. Dean Huijsen. I hope I pronounced it properly. But yeah, tell us something about him that the world doesn't know.
I mean, yeah, Dean Huijsen as a player, if you think about one of the best youngsters to actually break in this season, I
Mm,
think Dean Huijsen would be on top of my list, apart from an obvious Miles Lewis Kelly, I'd say. So I think Dean Huijsen as a season, he's been Bournemouth's most important figure, I'd say, because
mm,
coming from Juventus for a 15 million loan, I mean not a loan but a direct transfer, he's
mm,
made a big he's played a huge part for them this season because if you
right,
see the position on the table as well, they're doing well, they're competing for European spots, and
mm,
that just warranted to the top teams like you mentioned come in to sign him, and that's just one season and he's
mm,
just 21 by the way.
right.
So I think this season has been quite a milestone for Huijsen because he's announced himself in the biggest league, Premier League, of course. Then he's
Mm,
influenced, obviously, like I said, Bournemouth's position on the table. And
mm,
then he's also made his national side debut for Spain in the recent Nations League games. So I think for the headlines that he's made,
mm,
he's constantly improving and he's obviously going to get a much awaited move to
mm,
some of a big club that's coming. So yeah.
right, right. Did you mention how young he's? He's about like 20
Yeah, I
years,
think he's 20, 20, 21.
20, right? That's like 5 years younger than me, probably 1 or 2 years elder than you, making big moves and all that. But if you look at Dean Huijsen, right, he looks like he looks very skinny. He doesn't look like he possesses a lot of strength. Is that the case though?
I mean, not really, because to actually play in the Premier League, you need to have a certain physicality. And
Mm,
this guy might look skinny, but this guy is quite physical with his duels because coming in the Premier League, you have to face some of the best attackers, and this guy manages to outmuscle them with ease. So I'd say he's very proactive as a defender, and he also functions as a modern day center back. So yeah,
mm.
that's what I think.
True. Um, Now when it comes to strengths, right? Not regarding his physicality only, but like how is he? Like, what are his best attributes? Like, what are his general strengths of a player like him?
So what I think we'll do is we'll divide the strengths into like two parts. One is the in possession, one is the out of possession. So
Fair.
I think in possession, let's just start with build up play. I think he partners up with Ilya Zabarny at Bournemouth under Iraola,
Hmm.
where he functions as a left center back. Although he's right-footed, he's very good with his left center back tucking into the left center back role.
Hmm.
So he collects the ball and build up play. He's often tasked to like find those quick passes between the lines and then play those long balls that usually he's praised for usually. So I
Hmm.
think that helps the team progress very much. And then he's also really good at encapsulating the defensive aspect of the game to the attack, and that just is Iraiola's system at Bournemouth.
Hmm.
So if you've heard of Hoyson, it's certainly due to his resonance with his ball playing ability, I'd say,
Hmm.
because statistically he averages 4.7 for progressive passes, and 1.50 progressive carries per 90. And to speak of his passes, the weight of pass that he has, and also the amount of dip on the ball that he has, that it certainly dips and falls to a player's feet. I think that has quite an aesthetic visual bias that I have,
mm,
because it's very unique for a player to do it with both feet from a defensive position.
mm,
So in passage of play where the game can actually get a really game can get tight, like tactically or like due to the overloads, I think he likes to rely on his front-footed ball carrying ability, where he runs into spaces whilst also deceiving opponents and then using that physicality that we spoke of to outmuscle those players.
mm,
So for his development in the coming years, I think this is one trait that lots of proper managers would like to build upon, which is also known as like the libero role, right? What we expect like some of the best defenders to play.
mm,
So
mm,
out of possession, I think he boasts a very good statistical number in terms of interceptions in the Premier League.
mm.
So to give you a basic crux of it, he has 2.15 interceptions per 90, which ranks him in the top 2 percentile in the Premier League. So
Okay.
at 20, this is something phenomenal for just a player making his full debut in in a club like Bournemouth in the Premier League.
Mm,
So what I really like about him defensively is the reaction speed that he has in winning the ball, like how he drops to ground, how he tackles the player. It's just really nice. And you can actually rely on him winning a battle
mm,
against the very best 1v1 specialist wingers or some of the best strikers also in the league, because of just how proactive he is in like dueling with these guys.
mm,
So at 20, this guy has a 6'5" height, and this guy also has quite long legs that he uses for his excellent timing of the ball,
mm,
where he uses it to tackle runners basically.
mm,
So even when it's in his own box, he doesn't shy away from like the under pressure situations that others would, and like end up consuming like fouls, like a penalty or something like that. But this guy, I think his understanding of the body and how
mm,
he replicates this consistently with the decision making is just makes him stand out as a defender.
mm.
So his reading of a game at just 20 is obviously insane, because it helps him, track runners, like
Right.
stay close to them, man mark them, and also maintain a high line which Bournemouth are known to play.
Mm,
So although for someone who uses his recovery pace in Iraola's system, it's bound that he would end up making mistakes. But it's
mm,
just how he doesn't give up for me, because this
right.
dude can actually, if even if it's a failed clearance or like he's being outmuscled in like situations, because obviously he's a bit skinny like that, I think
Mm,
he still continues to impose himself and like put his body on the line where he can slide tackle and stuff like that. So I think in particular, like just following runs, matching runners, and shifting his body to different angles, like going to ground, getting up, putting his body on the line yet again. I think
mm,
he's very good in like intercepting things. And lastly, I'd just like to say that this guy with the height that we spoke of, like the 6'5" height, I think this is a game changer in both boxes. Why? I'd say, I mean, we'd have not so memorable memories of this guy on set pieces scoring against Arsenal recently, and then also he scored a crucial goal at Old Trafford as well against
right.
Manchester United.
Right.
So yeah, I think his height is at one side of the pitch in terms of helping the game in scoring goals. On the
Mm,
other side of the pitch, I think he's a primary defensive weapon for them, where he just likes to clear aerial threat that comes
mm,
their way. So yeah,
mm,
that's
mm.
just him.
Fair enough. And what are his out of like like, this is these are his strengths, right?
Yeah,
Um, Obviously, there are things that he needs to improve, and he's just 20 years old. Let's talk about that, because that is where like if his defensive issues or his normal issues are like a lot higher than his
mm,
strengths, that's where the issue will come, where clubs are trying to take a huge punt, because his price tag is what, 51 million. That's
50.
it.
Yeah,
It's still a huge amount for like a potential player who could become world class. Not everyone is like a
exactly.
Saliba, where he could cost like 34. Probably if Saliba was available in this market, he would still be 50 or like 51, and still it would be a huge punt for that age. But Yeah.
Yep.
What are his issues that needs to be developed, or that needs to be nullified or like ironed out, probably to make the bigger jump?
I think, yeah, for a player this young, for him to translate this into his future prime that they call for center backs at least, I think
Mm,
there are certain aspects that Huijsen actually needs to upgrade in his game. And that is something that you usually also see him focus on currently because that's how he's willing to grow and it shows you his character as well. So I think his passing accuracy at times, as good as he is, he tends to overdo it sometimes in terms of line breakers or like passes over the top and stuff like that because sometimes he could get too casual in this in terms
mm,
of just clearing the ball or
uh,
like forcing it and that could turn like turnovers could end up happening through that, but
mm,
it is just the weight of pass that at times it's like it's just simply not good
mm,
enough. So I
mm,
think that is one aspect. Another aspect is I mentioned how he's very good at intercepting possession. So whilst pressing from the front and like tracking runners it could be good, but sometimes he can get spun
mm.
and then he might end up making cheap fouls in order to like bring that player down and like
Right.
it's his positioning that ends up making him do that. So I think
Mm, mm,
again then when he relies on his recovery pace, I think that's again on the timing of his tackles and stuff like that. It can get risky at times. So
mm, mm,
that is another aspect. And last aspect I'd say is how he has certain concerns in like um balancing out his movements, and this is solely on his body. Like when he defends, I
mm,
think like I told you about how he falls to ground to defend, and
mm,
then his bodily movements. I think this raises questions on some of his body orientation works. But for now, it's just certain pinpoints that you have to make for a player like this. Again,
mm,
he is going to improve on these things, and it's quite obvious for him to also. But it
mm,
is enough for him to get better at, and then again he'll just keep getting better and then
mm, mm.
clubs would come for him, of
Fair enough.
course.
Like, could be slightly off, but the fact that he's a right-footed left center back. He's
Yep.
predominantly played there, even for like Bournemouth and Spain as well. That's where he made a debut. You mentioned that his orientation of his body is where that is causing issues. Do you think that is that because he's a right-footed LCB that is causing issues like that, or do you think it is just that with age he needs to like just learn because just what 20 years old, there's so much to learn
Hmm.
from different managers. Do you think that is the thing?
I don't know if scientifically that's the correct thing to say, if it's because of him playing as a left center back and then using different feet, but I think it's certainly not because of that. It's
Mm,
just how he uses his body in terms of movements.
mm,
In general, it is not got to do with his positioning, in my opinion, but
mm,
it's just movements in general as to how aggressive he would get, and then he moves his body, hips in particular, because that's where agility comes, right? So
right.
basically, that, in my opinion.
Fair enough. Fair enough. His strengths outweigh a lot of his issues that he has that he needs to improve, right? Which makes it a great indicator that he could become world class. And the fact that he's been linked with teams like Madrid, Liverpool, Chelsea, and even Arsenal heavily, not just normal links, it's heavily linked. It kind of made me wonder like what kind of player he is. And the fact that we've watched a lot of him in the last 1 year, him being playing for like Bournemouth regularly, and the fact that he made even his debut for Spain, it kind of is a huge punt. But if he goes to a club like the ones that we mentioned, like Madrid, Chelsea, Liverpool, or Arsenal, what do you think is going to happen with the players that are available there? Like, how do you think he's going to develop? Like, what do you think is going to happen?
I think fair enough. With the linked clubs, I think the one he would prefer the most would be Real Madrid because, I
Mm,
mean, come on, for a Spaniard to get a knock on the door from Real Madrid is obviously something to dream of. So,
mm,
obvious reasons he would want to, I mean, um, see himself at Real Madrid.
true.
Um, they have the quality in Rudiger, they have the quality in Asensio, who's broken out this season as well.
Mm,
I mean, he wouldn't mind to compete for either of the spot and play for the club of his dreams. So they
mm,
also have certain injury problems related to like a David Alaba
mm,
and like a Eder Militao as well. So for for Real Madrid, I think he has a certain spot if they look to pay the release clause directly. So
right.
yeah, that is one club. Next club, Arsenal. Of course, we would love him here at any point of given time.
Yeah.
Um, Arsenal look to be a club who are in for like a left center back or a left back, a
Mm,
hybrid role of that. So I
mm,
think a sale of Kivior or a Tomiyasu or stuff like that could see us going in for a Huijsen.
mm,
Um, One thing I'd like to say is our over reliance on Saliba and Gabriel this season
mm,
hasn't panned out the way as we wanted it, because now we have Gabriel picking up an hamstring injury and missing a crucial part of a season
mm,
that we've just hoping for a good center back to step in, our like main leader in defense to be there. So I
mm,
think in that circumstance, he can see himself be a successor to Gabriel in the near future if he's
mm,
coming in as a rotational piece for now. I think
mm,
the left center back role could be something that he could take over at the club.
mm,
Chelsea, I think they are really well sorted in terms of defenders in their squad they employ, but I
mm.
think injury niggles is what every Chelsea fan keeps complaining about, and
Right.
that has just painted a different picture in yet another season. You
Mm,
see Fofana's injuries, Colville's injuries, and then you have like players like Badia Shell and then Disasi, Chaloba, whose futures are also uncertain at this point of time,
mm,
even though they're contracted for such a big length of time.
mm,
So
mm,
I think for a Todd Boehly to go for a Huijsen, it is a no-brainer because this guy looks to sign the best talents,
mm.
and he would look to make him as their marquee signing with a contract that is just favorable to him. So
Right.
that is Chelsea's perspective. I think in terms of Liverpool, they have
Mm.
recently tied down their main acumen in defense, that is Van Dijk,
Van
to
Dijk.
a monumental contract extension.
Mm,
So I still think the other centre back option is up for grabs. Why? Because Konate's contract would run down in 2026,
mm,
and then you have the futures of Kwanzaa and Gomez in the air.
mm,
So if Liverpool look to up their interest and
mm,
pay that amount of price, which we know that Liverpool are quite hesitant in their transfers, if
mm.
they look to get this done, I think they're well sorted for the next 5 years at least in one of the centre back roles, who can
Easy.
play on right centre back, left centre back. So yeah,
Mm,
this is how I think they would fit in these respective clubs.
mm. Okay. Uh, From the looks of it, he would definitely start for Liverpool because would you rather have Konate or Hoyson? I think many people would say Hoyson. I know Konate has his injury issues, so that would give him more chance to play. Madrid, I think Madrid is another place where he could honestly solidify his spot because we know Asensio is there, but he's kind of
Hmm.
very rash, and Hoyson could be perfect for that as well. But uh, let's talk about Hoyson only. It's easy to compare him to many players in the world because of the kind of potential that he shows. But in this
Hmm.
present uh, set of center backs that are there around the world, who do you think he's like very close to, and like can you compare him with some players so that people have another idea of who Hoyson is? Because we have seen enough of Hoyson, but people who have not seen, maybe you could help them understand.
I mean, one name that lots of people look to compare a centre back in these days is basically a Nico Schlotterbeck for Dean Huijsen, because I think that guy's profile in terms of technicality as a centre back, I think it's very similar to Hoyson. Yes, you can argue that one is a left-footed player, plays as left centre back, and
Uh,
then there's the other who's a right-footed player playing as a left centre back.
mm,
Apart from that, I'm comparing these players
mm,
solely due to their passing ability and how front-footed they are as a defender, because
mm,
both these players help their club in build-up play, and
mm,
that is quick build-up play
mm,
because of the ta- because of the traits they have. So I
right.
think with that and then the reading of the game and like good spatial awareness and stuff like that, I
Mm,
think it makes them similar.
mm,
I know you didn't ask, but in terms of legends of the game, I
uh,
think this guy is very similar to Sergio Ramos. Maybe not aggressively,
uh,
but in
mm.
terms of passing and all round like defensive actions that he has, I think is very similar to him. And
Mm,
fun fact, he also calls Ramos as his idol. So
true, true.
fair enough.
Deed may not look aggressive, But those eyes definitely do not look aggressive. But if you just look at him, right, he could. May you never know. He's just 20 years old. He could probably just come out of his shell and like do something else. But
He's just a chill guy at the end of the day, bro.
yeah, he's just a very chill guy. He's definitely a chill guy. But yeah, it's a nice conversation to have regarding Dean Huijsen. It's not it's nice to understand the kind of player he is. But any final remarks regarding him before we wrap up this nice scouting video for the people?
I think for in terms of Hoyson, I think the next best thing he can do is actually leave Bournemouth and take that big leap in his career.
Hmm.
No, not disregarding Bournemouth and their progress under Iraola and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
I think for him, on a personal note, to improve, I
Hmm.
think he's already warranted himself as one of the best under 21 defenders
Right.
coming through the ranks this season. So
Huh.
I think the next decision is in his hands to
Hmm.
actually take that jump in his career and
Hmm.
then develop further. So I think hopefully it's an Arsenal and hopefully we don't disappoint him with the minutes and stuff like that. Hopefully in the future we come back to this,
Yeah.
but we just hope that it's a personal win for him at the end.
Definitely. Um, Thank you so much, Arush. We'll definitely be back with another scouting video very, very soon. But today, Dean Huijsen, we do not know where he'll end up. Hopefully, it is at the Arsenal because we both are Arsenal fans. But you know what? Wherever he makes his next big move, we are definitely sure that it will be in a very positive and in a very big, let's say, a big acquisition for those teams. It could be Madrid, Chelsea, Liverpool, or even Arsenal.
Or
Yeah,
any club in fact.
yeah, or any club. In fact, for now it's been linked with like four big clubs. We never know
Yep.
who's the other club that will come up because of the window. So yeah, that's it from us. We will see you soon. Till then, good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you're in the world. Peace. Bye bye.